Hello, good night. Welcome to Legalize this 9th day of February 2025, 2 days following the celebration of the 51st anniversary of independence. Our guest tonight would be Brother John Rullow, Citizen Rullow, and Brother Dave Nedd. But before we bring on our guests, and before we even get going further, we just want to say thank you once more to the sponsors of this program, Jail Professional Solutions, Inc., Gem FM out of Canada, and Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, GTAL.
Attention all workers, your health and safety at work are critical. At Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, we are dedicated to ensuring you have a safe and secure work environment. If you encounter unsafe conditions or are involved in an accident, take immediate actions. Report it to the company, your shop steward, and make sure it reaches your union. Your health and safety is a priority, and a strong union means a strong voice for your rights. Don't wait. Address concerns right away and protect your well-being. For a safer workplace and a better quality of life, stand with the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. Together, we can create a safer, healthier work environment for everyone.
Brother Simeon.
President, good night, and let me say hello to all the listening public and to the two comrades that we have with us today, Brother Dave Nedd and Brother Rullow. I'm happy to be here once again to co-host this program with Brother Layne, an old past presentation college boy, just as I am.
Yes, my brother. So last week, what was your take on last week's program?
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting stuff. In my mind, when I listen to that program a lot, and if you ask me, I would say that Senator Humphrey, okay, he got it wrong to a certain extent. The main problem, as I cite, and I want to quote because I had this thing that I was looking at, and I think that this is where we had the main problem. Sorry, my things fall. My notes fell. Okay. Yeah, as I was saying, to me, Comrade Humphrey failed to take into consideration that the crime that Vonan de Lima, the attorney from Trinidad, who was referring to, happened in 1999 when there were not many guns around. Okay. So most of the killings at that time were done by a cutlass, a knife, or by strangulation, right? He spoke about a killing in Grenada, that's Chester Humphrey, when Duncan was killed. In fact, I remember this killing, as if it's yesterday, because it happened in Concord Mountains, and I'm from Grand Rai. Duncan was killed by Hatton, okay, who told him he will show him the boundary to a piece of land in the mountain, okay? Instead, he chop off his neck. I know this well because the land was a piece of land that my parents had. The Slinger was renting it from us, and Slinger was the one that going to bring the police to where the boundaries, and they couldn't find it. They beat up Slinger where the body was. They beat up Slinger, beat him up. So I know that crime very good. He also spoke about the killing of a young girl in town by Precious and foreigners. I also remember that this was there was a dummy, okay, who was among the foe and who informed the police about the crime. Again, no gun was used. If I could remember well, they strangled her, raped her, and put all kind of stuff inside her. And this led to a public outcry to hang them for the crime they committed. Even at that time, we had the Calisonian Caruso returned from Trinidad, and he sang a tune. Mr. Premier, I'm begging you, flat. Bring back the rope and bring back the cat. For since a band, I've never seen that. Bring back the rope and bring back the cat. It is stick for cat, that, and so on. And so that forced the premier at that time, Eric Gary, to hang the 4 people. You see? But things have changed a lot. It's not as that anymore. You see? It's not like that if you look and see what are happening nowadays. Okay? Nowadays, what you find is that the killings are done by guns, which were provided to local and other Caribbean folks by the drug cartel in Latin America and South America to protect the transshipment of drugs sent to the Caribbean, because North America and Europe had tightened up their borders, making it difficult to ship drugs to these developed countries. So they were using the Caribbean instead, which was surrounded by water, making it difficult for the local coast guards to gather every drop of area. So if you bring back hanging, as he's asking for, all those in Grenada who are involved in the drug war will have to be hanged. And this would not solve the problem. New ones will take over because there's a lot of money being involved that is being paid to protect the transshipment of drugs to the US. So that is not the solution at all. And
yes, but I think the fact is that, and I think this is what Senator Humphreys is addressing. The fact is that there is a strong sentiment out there that would support that position, and I think that is what is being tapped into. But as the figures that we looked at last week point out, if you are looking at hanging from the standpoint of being a deterrent, I don't think that one can seriously say that it is a deterrent. I don't think the evidence supports that at all. If, however, you look at it from the standpoint of retribution, then that's a completely different thing. And when people say that, listen, if you institute and you utilize hanging in a widespread way, it will solve crime. It will prevent killings and so. I don't think the evidence bear that out. But will people be satisfied? Will that desire for retribution be addressed? Most likely, yes. But I think if we want to say that, then that is what we should say, rather than cloak it as a solution for serious violent crimes. Also, this past week, of course, we celebrated independence. Were you part of the did you attend the activity at the stadium?
Well, I've never attended one, even when I was looking at the Bureau of Standards and George Reason and the others saying, he was Minister of Agriculture and tell me I have to be there, must be there, because they wanted to make a special announcement regarding our subvention and so. I still send somebody, I always stay at home and, sometimes I watch it on TV when I was younger, but since I get old, I retire from even that. Okay, I would read all the speeches, just watch them, read them, and that's the best way I think right now to just read after everything is presented. I read out the opinions and then, make my own view as to what has to be done, But that's
of course, outside of Grenada, we had that major announcement by the president of the US regarding the Gaza Strip, namely that it will be owned. The intention is for the US to own it. You'll be following that story?
Yeah. Actually, I was just speaking to my sons out there and Rocky Petrobonal about it. I said, this is craziness. Could you imagine that Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, went to the States and Trump sat with him and saying that let the Palestinians go elsewhere, perhaps when let Egypt give them somewhere to live or somewhere, Lebanon or somewhere, and let out the areas they bomb in the Gaza Strip and also the West Bank, give it to the Israelis. This has to be crazy. If you go back to history, okay, this is the Palestinian lands. I know the Bible said the Israelis and so on was promised the land of Canaan. So they think that is where Canaan was. So they come, they started buying out the properties and so on and paying big money. So the Palestinians selling it to them until they had more than what they bought, much more. And then the British government in 1947 passed some kind of law dividing the thing and giving them the majority of the lands and just the Arab Strip, on the side, we call it the Gaza Strip. And let's say in the West Bank for all these millions of Palestinians to leave. And now you tell them, after you bomb them and mash up the whole place, you tell them that to get out? Well, it's just as I have in my house here. And somebody I know come and tell me they want the house and move out, go somewhere else. We can't do that. People have to, we have to be considerate of people, man. So that one really bothered me and it's still bothering me.
Of course, there's also a view that is, in fact, a crime against humanity. It amounts to ethnic cleansing, and hopefully at some time I will have somebody who is versed in international law do a program on that issue.
But the UN said that.
Yes, indeed.
The General of the UN said that.
Yes, and we have the continued issue of the immigration. And next week we are going to be bringing on an immigration lawyer from the US to do a program on what we call Trump executive orders on immigration.
Yeah, well, the immigration is a good move because so many people just walking over the border, and saying that in the country they have been persecuted when it's not true. Millions. You have to stop it somehow. So that was a very good move because they were coming over in the US, taking the work of the Americans and for cheap labor, And what you find is that the Americans, because of that, they were unemployed because they wouldn't work for their money. So that was a good move.
But on the other hand, there's the issue of people who have gone there. They have been there for years. They have worked. They have helped build it up, and they just want to throw them out. That's one. Yeah. Then also there are people who are born there, actually born there, and now you want to say that they are not citizens. So there are also those issues. But
I think you see those who are born there. Remember. Other people live in other countries and just go and make their child in the US and come back with the child. And when the child become big, they turn a citizen, so now they could go and study. So this is something again. It's necessary because they are US citizens. You cannot kick them out. What he could do is to stop that from happening. And who have already done it.
But that's the law. That's the law of the land.
Yeah. Who already done it? You avoid that from happening. And there are those who. One man marrying, 10, 15 women, or one woman marrying how many men? Just so they get citizenship and so on. So all these things, you marry to the divorce to the money, you marry the next money, just to get these are things that has to be controlled. It has to be controlled.
Okay, but we'll have somebody who's a specialist in that next week, and we'll take up that issue a bit more. But I think now we want to move to the topic of tonight, and we have Brother Dave Nedd and Brother John Rullow. These are two citizens who are ardent commentators, people who are deeply interested in the issue of the Constitution of Grenada. And that is so refreshing because the Constitution is really a document that should be owned by the people. It's a document that governs the people, and it is really encouraging that you have people, citizens out there, lay people who they don't make their living as lawyers, so they are not professional attorneys, but they show a deep interest in the population, in their constitution, and of course their views. I'm certain will be welcome and followed and discussed, and maybe we'll have agreements and disagreements by many. So Brother Rullow is actually here with me physically. he's challenged with regard to his vision. His sight. He has corrected me, not his vision, his sight. Brother Rullow is one of the Grenadians who gave yeoman service to construct that international airport that we all know we appreciate, and in some senses we take it for granted. And in fact, the loss of his sight may have his work on the airport definitely contributed to the loss of his sight. And I can tell you he's not the only one. I think there is another brother who, Simeon, you may know, very good friend of Brother Rullow, who I was in touch with recently. He also lost his sight, basically, Brother Trevor Noel, right? He also lost his sight. So it is
interesting.
Yes, so yes, so it is something that you know. Yes, you see. In fact, they have. One can say they have given a site to Grenada. They really gave it for the construction of the international airport, and it is something that we show appreciation for. Brother Dave Nedd also is a member of the Independent Caucus and the Constitution, and we welcome both tonight to have a discussion regarding the Constitution, the past, present, and future. That's how it is. The discussion for tonight is titled. So, Brother Nedd.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to the panelists, the co-host, and the host this evening, and a special hello to Mr. Rullow. I remember the last time we were together. Yes, I just want to wish give all a belated Independence greeting. And to remind, as Brother Layne was saying a while ago, that our Constitution is what gave us independence. So when we celebrate independence, what we are in fact celebrating is the 1973 Constitution. We are buying into the ideals that are expressed, and we are also buying in to the aspirations of that document. So, as you said, it is absolutely necessary that we become that we make ourselves acquainted with that document. In particular, those who serve and those who take an oath to honor and to respect and to uphold, to preserve the Constitution, they too must see it necessary to become acquainted with the document. And I offer these words as an introduction to the topic this evening. And I am hoping that we'll be able to get into how the Constitution was in fact crafted and how it is affecting us, how it has affected us, how it is going to affect us, and to sit down and to ask ourselves the question, is the Constitution doing what it was intended to do? And those are very important questions that I think the answers would provide a lot more clarity as to what our future will hold, how we develop as a people. So thank you again this evening for the opportunity that you've given, so that once again we can bring this document to the people. Thank you so much, Mr. Lee.
Thank you for inviting me here again. I thought that I can make a meaningful contribution to this discussion. Meeting to Mr. Collins, we've never met. I do enjoy your writings on the newspaper. One of these days we shall. And Brother Dave, God which is blessed in the day. Now, Brother Dave and I have different views on this quote-unquote constitution. He just hinted we should ask ourselves if the constitution is really serving its purpose. And I think I want to start with that question. This constitution never had, but of all, now that we know, had inputs of the population of Grenada. We ask ourselves what a constitution is. And right? The constitutions are never written in stone. No, they're never written in stone. Constitutions can change. And the time has come for this one to be changed. This constitution was never designed to serve the people of this country. Never. Because it had no influence. It was made an order in council of the Queen's most excellent majesty. And who signed it? The Queen. The Queen was the monarch. The sovereign and continues to be as the monarchy in our king, presented by Charles Rex III, a monarchy. Monarchy or monarchism, it can be democracy. Because monarchies are made up of aristocrats and plutocrats. Aristocrats being included clique of privileged ones and plutocrats who have money, those who hold the power. The time has come for us to have a constitution signed by the people's representative, to represent the people and to work for the people. My position is crystal clear. This constitution has to go out the door, and our people have to write a new constitution for themselves because we are fully capable of doing so.
But whatever, just let me just ask though. The constitution came out of a conference in England in May 1973, in which both the government side and the opposition were represented. You put any significance on that?
Indeed, there were representatives from the political parties, but there are two significant things I'd like to refer to. And only this morning, reviewing Hansard reports. Hansard reports in 1973, 11th of December, in the Commons, when Lord Balneo explained that the constitution that we have today and been operating for the past 51 years is quite similar. The exact words I can't remember, but in the other house, it was defined as of no marked difference to the 1967 Constitution as associate state, which we did not participate in either. Look at it. From that, yes, we were represented there. Certain people in Grenada, when they came back, he said he didn't sign, and in fact he did sign, but he didn't submit a letter. It was participation, but this thing had all been properly designed. I hope we will get to understand and to make the connection between the West Indies Act, Section 10, subsection 1 and 2, and to see how it was all planned and all what happened during that time between 72 into 74 just couldn't change because it was law established by the British. Imposed upon us. And the time has come that we had to change it. Why should we be swearing to a king? Why should we have a king? Why should we be called upon to pray for the King High and Mighty Charles Rex III to reign over us? And we're politically independent, brothers and sisters. This is my argument. This doesn't sound logical to me.
Brother Dave?
Okay, thanks so much, Brother Rullow. If I were to start off, you said that the discussions in the Hansard, recorded in the Hansard, reflected that the Constitution.
The Hansard is that document that keeps the record of parliamentary procedures, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much.
Across the Commonwealth.
Across the Commonwealth. Yeah. And the observation was made that the 1973 Constitution was indeed similar to and let me differentiate it. The 1973 Independence Constitution was remarkably similar to the 1967 Constitution of Associated Statehood. And maybe we need to take the viewers back a little bit and to understand that we were initially a crown colony, and then we went to, as we gained more and more autonomy over our own affairs and the governance of the country, we became associated states of the United Kingdom. And then in 1974, we were in fact declared to be a constitutional monarchy and independent. And we need to explain, first of all, what is a constitutional monarchy. And my understanding is that a constitutional monarchy allows for a monarch to be the head of state. So it is a relationship. It describes or it defines a relationship. And the relationship is between, one, the monarch, and two, the people of Grenada. That relationship is defined in a document. It is codified, it is written, you can refer to it. And the duties of the monarch are in sections 57, all subject to the Grenada Constitution. So the relationship that we have with the monarch is one that is defined, and the monarch has no authority outside of the powers that are contained in the 1973 document. Now, over the years preceding 1973, the authority, the power of the monarch has changed, and it has changed significantly over the years. There was a time, for instance, when the monarch was in charge of all our affairs, and we made no decisions on our own. And by orders in council, because we did not fight for our independence, we did not win our independence, it was granted. So by orders in council, they have governed our affairs over the years. So for instance, in 1951, with the advent of Erigeri and the struggles that cumulated between 1951 and 1974, that is what defines our independence for me. So at the beginning in 1951, the struggles was a bread and butter struggle, a workers' class struggle, a mass worker struggle, and it involved better conditions, better pay for both men and women, and that was the genesis of the struggles. As we came to independence, you would see that the monarch and the powers that were originally controlled by the monarch was declined from 1951 to 1974. And in 1974, we now have a relationship that the monarch is actually subject to our constitution. And what I think is important in all of this is for us to realize, for us to understand that the Constitution is our Constitution. It is not the British Constitution. So whilst it was given to us, and I think it was the acceptance speech of Eric Matugiri on the night of the launching of the independence, the rising of the flag, where he accepted the Constitution, and his words, and I looked for the speech today, but I couldn't find it, unfortunately. And his words then was that he accepted the Constitution on behalf of the Grenadian people. So it was not the Grenadian Parliament that was the authority. So the Constitution was patriated it was not patriated to the parliament. It was patriated to the authority, was transferred to the Grenadian people, a higher.
And by patriated, you mean what though?
Okay,
Because some people think it was given to us.
Okay, so the transfer of authority might be a better word, because the British government, the monarchy, was the authority previously. That authority was now transferred, and it is important for us to understand who was the recipient of that authority. And by all indications, when you read the Constitution, it says, whereas the people of Grenada. And that my understanding is supported in sections 106 of the Constitution, when the Constitution says that this Constitution is the supreme law and no other law, all right, to the extent of its inconsistencies with the Constitution, shall be void. Any other law, to the extent of its inconsistency, would be void. So the transfer of authority from the British monarchy was not to the Grenada Parliament, because there existed a higher authority than the Grenada Parliament. The only authority being the people.
The people. The higher authority being
the Constitution says, for us to change this arrangement, it's not the Parliament to change the arrangement. And we have seen attempts to change it twice in our history, that the decisions have to be referred to the highest authority of the land. And until
you speak of which, you said twice, which occasions you speak of?
The two referenda. There were two referenda, one in 2016, where 6 bills were referred, and then one in 2018, when 1 bill was referred.
Okay, so you're not criticizing that procedure?
I am not.
You say that
criticizing the process. The content of the process is I'm not criticizing the process. The process was correct. The matters were referred.
You have an issue with the content.
I have issues with the content.
Right. So let me just gather. You are saying that in terms of the history of our Constitution, basically it is rooted in our history, starting from the days of colonialism, right up to 1974 when we received independence.
Independence, yeah.
You are saying essentially that what happened was a transfer, that's your understanding of it, a transfer of power from the monarch or the British government.
The monarch.
So, for the British monarch,
to
the people of Grenada.
Yes.
But we swear allegiance to who? Not to the people.
So we swear allegiance.
These are the documents that we have now. We swear allegiance to who?
So we take 2 oaths when the officials take 2 oaths. One is the oath of allegiance. The other is the oath of office.
Right. Now, the oath of allegiance is to who?
The oath of allegiance is to His Majesty, the King, his successors, etc. And the oath of office now swears to the Constitution of Grenada. They swear to honor, to uphold, and to preserve the Constitution of Grenada. And when you take that oath, you are in fact swearing to the Grenadian people, because it is the Grenadian people who are the custodians of this Constitution, and they are the only ones who can change it.
And when you take the first oath of allegiance, you swear to?
When you take the oath of allegiance, you're swearing to His Majesty. But we have to understand in this process that there are 2 parties to the Grenada Constitution. There are 2 parties. It's an arrangement. And the transfer of authority from the monarch was not a complete transfer. So we still have a relationship with the monarch. And because we have that relationship with the monarch, and the monarch is the first or the second party to the arrangement, whichever, in terms of the schedule, it comes first. So because it's in the schedule, the monarch comes first, the constitution, the oath of allegiance comes first, and you swear to the constitution second.
Any significance in the order in your mind?
I don't know at this point in time, but interestingly, the monarch, the arrangement puts the monarch as the head of state.
Okay.
Right? The arrangement puts the monarch at as the head of state. So I'm assuming that is where the hierarchy comes from.
Okay.
However, every action of the monarch is subject to the Grenada Constitution, which the people are the custodians, and they can change that relationship at any time. So there are no benefits for the monarch in this arrangement. The monarch is seen as a symbol of neutrality, and I am assuming that he is there to facilitate the transformation, the movement away from the monarchy to final independence. Because we have always said that independence, that we gained independence in 1974. And I've always advocated that our independence is a journey. There was associated statehood, there was independence, and then we now have a relationship with a monarch that it is up to us to determine whether we want to go ahead with that relationship or not. And that is as simple as having a referendum in 90 days. You lay the documents in the parliament in 90 days and a decision made as to whether we want the relationship with the monarch or not. There's no benefit in our constitution.
That's regard to the future. You address both the past and the present. I just want to hear Brother Rullow on this.
The truth is, I mean, I trust that this word doesn't sound too harsh, but I'm befuddled, utterly confused. I believe in dictionary definition of words. Political, and another thing that we had to clarify here, the independence that we're talking about, not reliability, self-sufficiency, self-sustainability as a country, because no country in the world can really sustain themselves. What we're talking about here is political independence. And as far as back as the 17th century, you have heard of a British sociologist, philosopher, he was also a medical doctor, John Locke. He said the following: political legitimacy derives from the popular consent, implicit and explicit consent of the governed. Political legitimacy. Independence gives political legitimacy to a country, and that country, upon gaining independence, whether it be granted or attained through force or otherwise, becomes sovereign. Pay attention to the word sovereign. There can be only one sovereign. We cannot be sovereign in Grenada, as is proposed, yet we ruled by another sovereign. It's impossible. It's impossible. The United Nations have 4 elements, guarantees or creates conditions for acceptance. If the United Nations were to do the work, they would recognize that Grenada does not qualify in one. A population, we do have an established population. We can tick that box. A government with rights and authority to deal with other countries, we can take that box. Territorial integrity, we can take that box. The final one, not ruled or reigned over by another power. we are ruled over by another power, namely the monarch, the sovereign of the United Kingdom. How then are we considered to be independent, politically independent? You know, this is the problem. But this thing came through from years prior. That's why I want to cut the discussion of the past short. We've lived with it for 51 years today. The fact is, what do we do henceforth? We have been guided in 2002, the government of Grenada, led by Keith Mitchell, and under the mandate of the then Governor General Daniel Williams, prepared a commission, set up a commission to review the Constitution of Grenada. 2002, we're talking about 23 years ago. This commission was headed by Nicholas Liverpool. My understanding was a learned Dominican jurist. Quite experienced then. By the way, he has passed away, may he rest in peace. Randy McIntosh, I think Simeon McIntosh, from chap from Carriacou, I think I remember when I was about Julia. He was also a very learned UE professor and otherwise.
He too has passed away.
He too has passed away, rest in peace. Bristol, Carol Bristol, learned legal luminary in Grenada back then. May he rest in peace also. Basil Harford, a senior public officer. And one today, he still is the one that's still alive. Today, Father Gerard Ball. This commission was set up to review the Constitution, and they published a document. Next 2002, this document explained, as an act of orientation to the people, what we should do. So these I was around, I only learned so about 10 years ago.
I think Lyle St. Paul, Justice Lyle St. Paul.
It was turned over after the gentleman left, I understand. He had to go to take the presidency up. All right. Anyway, this commission sat and they published, they did a research and they came back with an orientation document which briefly says, it says what a constitution is, the basic law of the country. What the constitution gives the authority to the organs of the state and the laws of the state. Said where the Constitution gets its authority, similar to what John Locke said in 16, whatever it was, from the consent of the people. He went on to say, in the second paragraph, it is instructive to note that neither the document terminating Grenada's associate state with the United Kingdom nor the current Constitution are enactment in the Parliament of Grenada and on its face continue to be imperial orders in council of the Queen's most excellent majesty. And then he went on to tell us what we should do. He went on to say the document came in and was handed by Mr. Blake, the Under Secretary of Commonwealth and Foreign Affairs, to the Premier, who ought to be the morning of Prime Minister Eric Gary. And there was no discussion or resolution in the Parliament of Grenada. In other words, the people of Grenada, through their parliament, nor through popular referendum, accepted this document. You telling me it belongs to the people. I cannot see that. But they went on and told us that we need to do. You use the word patriation. That was the group who advised us what patriation was and what we should do to make the Constitution our own and to put it in line with the democracy. And you mentioned few other countries, Belize, Barbados, I think it was Guyana or something, or Trinidad and Tobago. We were advised what to do. That was shoved aside. And you know the document of Dave, don't you? Are you saying that these
the Liverpool documents?
Ridiculous that they didn't do the proper investigation before they made these recommendations to the people? That was 2002. We're saying to all this time with full knowledge that there had been shortcomings, anomalies, and I would go as far as to say as a major bluff over the years. You're telling me today we had to continue paying homage and allegiance to a king and a queen in a politically independent country, I have a problem with that. Tell you, I'm befuddled with your arguments.
Well,
Okay, so let me just say to the viewers, one minute, Dave. There is a facility for calls so that anyone who wants to participate in the discussion can call in. The number will be put up on the screen shortly. Yes, so Dave, I think you have a bit of a different view in terms of the monarch.
Okay.
So you can just explain that.
Over the last 50 years of our independence, there has seemingly been more concern placed on the manner in which we got the document that we have, as opposed to examining the content of the document that we have. All right. So there's been a lot of debate about how that document got to Grenada, and there was a lot of turmoil. There was a lot of turmoil associated with that passage. We're one of the few countries that fought each other, right, before we got independence. So there was those who were against the independent process, but it wasn't, and there were those that were for the independence process, but it was all an internal battle, right? So our process to independence was not a straight line, and it was not as clear-cut as most other countries. They take up arms and they fight an occupier and they're freed and they become independent. So that is not the case for Grenada. Clearly, that's not the case.
Virtually the entire English-speaking Caribbean is
English-speaking Caribbean. Similar.
Same as Grenada, right?
It's similar in some cases, but Grenada, in the Grenada context, you have to remember that all of the turmoil that we had in the years coming to independence was an internal issue. We weren't fighting the British. Okay? So that makes us different from most of the other islands in the region who got independence in that similar period. And I say this to say that our history is our history. I don't think that we are here to debate now what has gone. I would prefer for us to now examine a document that now governs us, that we have accepted for the past 50 odd years as the relationship that we have with those in authority and the responsibilities that we have to each other. So that is what we have to be interested in. And when you look at the road to independence, you would see, for instance, that under associated statehood, the right to work was not included in the associated statehood constitution. But the right to work is now included in the 1974 constitution. If you look at the basis for discrimination, the basis of discrimination in the associated statehood constitution of 1967 does not include sex. So you could have discriminated race, religion, etc., but not sex. So men and women were discriminated against. Women received less pay. They were treated differently. They couldn't vote. Right? Those are the issues that the Independence Constitution brought to the fore. So when you look at sections 13 of the Grenada Constitution, now you would see that sex is included. So rights and freedoms were enhanced. And that is how I look at it. From 1967, the rights and freedoms that were afforded the Grenadian people were significantly enhanced. And that is the document that we now have in front of us. Now, as to the authority of the Crown, and I don't know if I'm not explaining it properly, if I'm not coming over clearly, but if you look at section 67, of our Constitution, Section 57, it establishes His Majesty as head of the executive authority. That's the first line, right? The executive, Section 57, subsection 1 says to you, the executive authority of Grenada is vested in His Majesty. Immediately after that, subsection 2 says, subject to the provision of this Constitution, the executive authority of Grenada may be exercised on behalf of His Majesty by the Governor General, either directly or through officers subordinate to him. So what does that say to you? There is a rule for His Majesty, but the rule is defined in the Grenada Constitution. And the people now are the custodians of that Constitution. So His Majesty does not have he's not, his office does not supersede that of the people. His rule is as what the people decides. And the people can say tomorrow that, as I said, that we don't want His Majesty. And that is understood.
Let me just ask this, because around this time last year, there was a hot issue on the issue of the oath of allegiance and the oath of office and the oath of allegiance, but the oath of allegiance in particular.
In particular, yeah.
Yes. I think at the time, Dr. Alexis had put forward the position that it was not necessary to, essentially the Parliament could have changed the oath of allegiance so that henceforth going forward, allegiance is pledged to the people of the country. Yeah?
Uh-huh.
So at present, the oath of allegiance is to His Majesty.
His Majesty, yes.
Dr. Alexis was proposing that we can move forward and move away from that by a simple act of Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not a simple act of Parliament, by an act of Parliament.
By a simple majority, two-thirds majority.
The two-thirds majority. They without the necessity of having a referendum, as we had in 2016 and 2018. Your position is still the same on that issue?
Yes, our position is
in
still the same.
We're talking about going forward now.
And we're going forward now.
What about the future?
Yourself and Mr. Rullow are in the studio now. Assuming that you're both partners in an arrangement, whatever the arrangement is, and I am your worker, right? If the arrangement signifies that I should pledge allegiance to Mr. Rullow, and both you and Mr. Rullow agree that I should pledge allegiance to Mr. Rullow, then what is the issue? There are two parties.
If there's a desire to change that.
If there is a desire to change
you're saying that
it,
it cannot be changed?
I'm saying that
Yes.
if you and Mr. Rullow decide to change it, then it's changed. And it's changed to whoever or whatever you decide I should pledge allegiance to. But Mr. Rullow can't change it on his own.
Right.
Nor can you change it on
Let's bring
your
it
own.
forward and let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. Your view remains that we need to go to a referendum to change the oath of allegiance.
Yes, clearly.
Right. Despite the fact that there was no referendum in the first instance to decide that we take allegiance to the monarch. You don't think that is relevant?
The allegiance to the monarch was not a decision that we made as a people. Our relationship with the monarch was one of slavery. We were slaves. So it's not an arrangement that we voluntarily went into. And again, I see
Yeah,
that
but we
our
were not
history,
slaves in 1974.
but we had an arrangement.
Were we?
We do have an arrangement with the monarch now. The
No,
1973.
the point is that in 1974, 1973, in 1973, 1974, and I say
1970,
74 because that's when the
Yeah.
Constitution came into effect.
Mhm.
We were not slaves at that time.
No, we are now, as it was referred to in the British Hansard, that we are now an independent entity and we make our own decisions.
Right. So my
and
point
those
is that
uh-huh.
it was the British who decided that we should be pledging allegiance to the monarch, not so?
The decision, and again now, there was an arrangement. That's the most I can say. We sent a delegation to Marlborough. The delegation went to Marlborough. There were amendments made to the Constitution. There was a draft that was presented. It caused a lot of turmoil, a lot of concern in Grenada at the time that it was presented. It was thought that too much power was being given to Eric Gairy at a particular time in his career. And there were concerns about that. That was debated in Marlborough. And what came out of Marlborough was the document that we now have. So there was input. I don't think that anybody can deny that representatives went to Marlborough. And we can debate the process of representation because there were claims that, okay, it was tabled in the 1972 elections, in the manifesto of a particular party, that if they won, that independence would be the next step. That was not the road. That was not the authority under which we got independence. Independence was given to us by an order in council. And it was at the discretion of the authority, the king, to so
Yeah, but
do.
I'm still, we in a sense, we are moving. We looked at the past. We know where we are now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah?
Mhm.
And Brother Rullow is strongly of
Right.
the view that we have
Right.
to get out of where we are now. Yeah?
And I am saying that it is not a decision for me. It is not a decision for John Rullow. It's not for Ewart Layne or Mr. Collins. This is a decision that the Grenadian people have to make. I have no qualms about what decision they make, but it must be presented to them as per the agreement. There must not be a backdoor movement.
Well, I just want to focus just a bit on the oath of allegiance because of the fact that the very document you speak of, the Constitution, it sets out how it is to be amended if it is to be amended.
Okay.
And the very document gives the authority to the Parliament to amend certain sections. The Parliament by itself, by special majority, can amend certain sections. And there are other sections which the document says, on the face of it, requires the support of 2/3 of the people in a referendum. Yeah? So, Dr. Alexis' argument is, which I agree with, that the oath of allegiance is one of those sections that can be consistent with the very document, can be changed by a special majority of the Parliament. And he is saying it is the very Constitution that allows that. And you are saying no.
But Dr. Alexis can say so. But Dr.
They don't
Alexis
agree.
has no, and it's not about agreement. He must then his argument must then be supported by the provisions of the Constitution.
I think he has amply said that out. Yes,
I think that that situation was clearly articulated in a number of programs. We did a program one-on-one with Dr. Alexis, and Dr. Alexis cannot support his argument.
Yeah, what
So
you say?
he cannot support his argument. The argument, the Constitution makes, and to simplify it as simple as I can get it, the Constitution gives it an authority to amend certain provisions. A provision is one or more clauses of the Constitution or one or more sections of the Constitution that affects a single activity. And if we understand that, his attempt to remove the oath of office from the oath of allegiance from the person who signs up as the Governor General or the President or whatever we want to say is fundamentally flawed, because the provisions are clearly defined in Schedule 1 of the Constitution. Subsection bullet number 7 lists sections 111 and Schedule 3, sorry, of the Constitution. So there is a relationship.
I don't think we'll go forward. We'll go forward with that, but I must tell you, I think that Dr. Alexis was very clear on that. As clear as I think it can be in terms of setting out.
So you are, if Dr. Alexis is clear and your interpretation, you are clear as to what his interpretation is, we've asked for one simple thing to do. Schedule 2 to the Constitution, bullet number 7, right? It says sections 111. What is the relationship between section 111 and Schedule 3 to the Grenada?
You only read part of section 111.
Only
read part of it.
Okay, so let me read it in its entirety.
I'm talking about the schedule. You only read part of it. But I don't want us to be bogged down by that, because you're not reading all of the schedule.
So tell me what I'm not reading. I am reading. I am telling you what I'm reading. Let me tell you what I'm reading. I'm reading from bullet number 7 of Schedule 1, Part 1 to the Grenada Constitution. Is that what you were referring to?
It says what?
And it is clear that it says provisions of the Constitution referred to in sections 39.5, and you are referring to section 39.5 that gives the authority to change laws. All right? And it says provisions of the Constitution referred to in sections 39.5. Bullet number 7 says sections 111 in its application to any of the provisions mentioned in the foregoing items of this schedule. There is no mention of a section. Dr. Francis Alexis takes you directly to a section when the Constitution is directing him to a series of sections or a series of clauses, not one. And
let's not get bogged down with that, because let's put it simply, I don't agree with you. So let's
I don't mind the disagreement, but you must be able to support it. So tell me I'm wrong. Don't just tell me I'm wrong. So, but tell me I'm misinterpreting. Tell me what I'm misinterpreting.
I think Dr. Alexis dealt with that effectively, and he set it out in my view in a very clear way. And so I don't want us to be bogged up with that. I want to deal with the bigger issue. Yeah, I want to deal with the bigger issue in terms of our future. And I know Brother Rullow has a clear position that we have to get out of what you call this arrangement represented in the 1973-74 Constitution. What's your take on it? I think Brother Rullow will say the monarchy business, we need to bring an end to that and other things. What's your take on that?
For me, in 2024, the monarchy has done me nothing. When Cameroon Park was threatened to be sold, it wasn't the monarch who was selling it. I want us to think about it. It was not the actions of the monarch that precipitated the intent to remove Cameroon Park from citizens. Wasn't the monarch? It was our own elected officials that were perpetuating those actions.
So let me put it this way then. Based on what you said about the Constitution earlier, it was agents of the monarch, because the Constitution says that the executive rules, the monarch rules through the executive. So it was agents of the monarch.
The actions of the monarch is subject to the Constitution. The Constitution rules, and that is what we have to understand. The Constitution is in charge, not the monarch, not the executive.
No, but you read a section to me earlier which says executive authority is vested in the monarch. Right. Also?
Yes.
Then you went on to read the section which says that the monarch
subject
yes,
to the Constitution.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Can exercise our power through the Governor General.
Right.
Yeah. So what is unconstitutional about the agents? We may disagree with politically, but what is unconstitutional about the agents of the monarch? Because according to your position, these are agents of the monarch. So tell me, what is unconstitutional about the agents of the monarch taking certain decisions, such as to sell Cameroon Park, which you disagree with?
The agents of the monarch taking decisions to do what? To sell a public park? What is yes. Unconstitutional about that?
I disagree with it. You disagree with it. Tell me what is unconstitutional about it. The monarch, the executive, coming out of popular elections, yeah? So you tell me what is unconstitutional about it.
Okay.
And I want to make it again, your point, these are agents of the monarch. Because that's the setup we have.
Those are representatives of the people. If you look,
so they are not agents of the monarch anymore.
If they're not agents of the monarch, and that is what we're confusing, they're representatives of the people. The people have a relationship.
Those who are exercising executive power.
Sorry, say that again, I missed it.
Those who are exercising executive power, they are representatives of the people, not agents of the monarch, you see.
Those who are exercising executive power must first be elected. They must be members of the parliament.
Right.
Right. For the lower house of parliament, they must be elected. So they are agents of the people. They must be directly elected. And those are the words. So they must be a member of the constituency, and they must be directly elected by the members of the constituency to the House of Representatives.
You're talking about the people who are in the House of Representatives,
right?
Elected.
To form the executive. So to form the executive.
Exactly.
To form the executive, you're now taking those members who were elected to the House and members who were selected to the upper house, and you're forming the executive. They were either elected by the people or they were selected by the people.
Okay, so not to get bogged down. Tell me if I'm correct. I get you as saying that as far as you are concerned, there is no issue with regard to us pledging allegiance to the monarch and the monarch having the right to exercise executive power in Grenada, because as far as you are concerned, in terms of daily issues such as the decision to get rid of Cameroon Park, it is not the monarch, but it is Grenadians who are doing that. And therefore, as far as you are concerned, tell me if I'm right, because that's what I'm hearing. As far as you are concerned, this thing about changing this arrangement is of no moment and no importance.
No. I would never say that.
You're right?
No, you're
No,
getting
no,
it
I know you didn't
absolutely
say
wrong.
that, but I'll
You're
get you wrong.
absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong. I am saying that the issue of the monarch and his survival or not as head of state is a decision for the Grenadian people. Whatever the Grenadian people decide, it is not my decision. And that is the difference. It must be a decision.
I'm only saying it because you are a public advocate. You are an activist, right?
Yeah.
You advocate regularly. So that's what I'm trying to get out of you. Brother Rullow is an advocate. Everybody in Grenada knows. Right. Everybody in Grenada knows his position is that we need to move beyond what we have covered.
So put it to the people. Put it to the people. Let them decide. There is no shortcut. There is no backdoor around the issue. The issue is one that the Grenadian people, whatever the decision is.
Rullow will campaign to persuade the people to vote in a particular way. So I'm asking you, would you be of the same mind in terms of your public advocacy?
If we are to amend the Constitution in any way, no. My advocacy would be to educate the people around the provisions of the constitutions that protects their interests. What is their interest? Governance, corruption. That is the issues that we have this morning. Today, as we wake up, we are operating now without a budget. We are 1 month and some in the fiscal year for 2025. The Constitution says in section 76 that there shall, the minister for the time being responsible for finance, shall cause to be prepared and laid before the House an estimate of revenue and expenditure. Is not the monarch doing that? Those are our elected officials.
Agents of the monarch, presently, right?
They're not agents of the monarch. The monarch has a relationship with the people of Grenada. They are our agents. They are the people's agents. We elected them. The monarch didn't elect them. The monarch didn't give an order in council and say that who is the prime minister, who is the minister of finance today. We elected them.
An order in council of the Queen's most excellent majesty, but no, the monarch's most excellent majesty, whenever he may appear. I mean, let's get serious about this thing. This discussions over the changing of the oath of allegiance. If we change the oath, this is superficial stuff that would not resolve anything. Would that change section 57? Would that change section 35, 83?
It does, Mr. Rullow. It does. The Governor General has legislative authority. Her legislative authority is set out in section 45 with regards to all laws that are passed. She either has to assent or she has to withhold assent. She has to
in the name of whom? In the name of whom?
She is the people.
Because she was elected by the Canadian people. She's doing that. Well, unfortunately, it's a woman here, so I have to say she or the Governor General, as the case may be. It's on behalf of a person that we don't even know, a monarch from a different country who was in effect sovereign. Take a look at the nice triangle.
Okay, so but do you agree? But Citizen Rullow, do you agree?
Let me just finish my point.
Okay, sorry, you go ahead.
There's only one apex on an isosceles. And that represents, you may refer to a pyramid. There's only one point at the top, one. And that is where the sovereign resides. If Grenada is sovereign, how should we be dependent on another sovereign? Why should we? And I don't want to waste time on these Regulators, should we call it in the correct word, legalese and legal semantics? Because this constitution order by the king's most excellent majesty has to be wiped out of Grenada. It was never designed to serve the people. Look at it and you will see. Is there anything there that speaks of the economic structure of this country? No. It doesn't represent the people. No, obsolete. It serves those who want to preserve it. The agents, as you refer to them, and the Grenada Monarchist League, a bunch of faceless, shameless, nameless people who keep protecting the monarchy. If we're independent politically, I want to stress that should really qualify to all it, politically independent, then we have nothing to do with monarchy. No monarch can rule over, reign over another country that is politically independent because there cannot be a sovereignty. So what do we do from here? Because I repeat, it's not that we do not know that we've been blocked for 51 years. We don't know. The question is, when shall we make move? And who has to shout? The first step to make move to correct this thing. We'd like to believe that the parliament does it. By generating a resolution, they're asking the people, beginning this way, are you prepared to continue to live under an imperial order and council of the monarch of the United Kingdom, or do you wish to write your own constitution? Give them a choice through Constituent Assembly.
And I agree with that.
The other occasion.
Yes.
But let's ask the people, if they say yes, we change it. But
I agree with that.
Let me finish my point. If they say no, they do not wish to live under a monarchy and they wish to, then we make moves towards educating them what the next step will be. But if they say, we like it so, it will continue, the potential will continue. Ask the people, yes, I believe in that. And there is nothing wrong and there's nothing anti-constitutional to ask the people by generating a resolution here. They have 10 seats, 2/3 majority now that they can do it. The previous administration with the 15 with the vote to the vote did nothing because they had no intention, because they never really had interest in the people. The second alternative is that the people can apply what John Knox stated as early back in his time. When usurpers abuse the rights of the people, then the road to revolution becomes clear, and the right and rebellion becomes the right of the people. The people will have to move to a civil disobedience because we now know that we've been abused by the protection of the monarchy. We cannot be independent, and if we're independent, then the monarchy has no place in this here country. It's as simple as that. No more regulators. No more matter whether or not you're changing to this and that, and we still play given whatever you call it in the, we have the Royal Grenada Police, His Majesty's prison, the Crown lands, Crown lands. And what's that in this area country that we independent? Let's do this thing correctly once and for all. It's in my view.
Okay.
So I maintain.
Yes. Co-host, you have any input?
Yeah, well, basically, as far as I'm concerned, since I saw, which is represented by the Governor General, is a rubber stamp. He or she duty to stamp anything the Prime Minister say. You know, he or she don't go to England anyway to, except if it's something very serious. But as it comes, you stamp it. The Prime Minister appoint the Governor General, make no bones about that, and can fire he or she anytime. So when a decision is taken at Parliament level, even at the level of the Prime Minister, then he or she has to stamp it. I understand what both people are saying, but we keep going in circles. As Mr. Rullow called it, legal semantics. So let us be quite clear, okay? Out of allegiance, yes, out of this and that, but we have to be clear. To me, it don't make a difference if you have a monarchy or not. Running as the head of state in Grenada. Take for example, Canada is a big country. They still have the monarch as the head of state. Is that a problem? It will make a difference to them. Okay, because no any rubber stamping, can take place. So a lot of Caribbean countries, including Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana and others, have moved to end the reign of the monarchy and replaced by a president. That we can do, yes, through a referendum, and so no problem. Do it, don't do it, it don't make a difference.
I think.
I'd just like to make
Sorry.
commitment.
Yeah, but I will.
If you make permission, thank you. I'd just like to make one significant point before it slips me. The issue of the legitimacy of the state, Grenada. We do not have a Constitution Act. Can anybody tell me the number, the sequential numeration, and the year of the Constitution Act of Grenada? The Constitution Act gives legitimacy to the state. We have already said what a constitution is. We do not have, but the said constitution makes laws that the people of this country are obligated to obey. Tell me a lie. But this is not in itself a law. How do we explain that? We boast of our independence. There is no Independence Act, which is the document that gives face to the quote-unquote independence. We do not have it. How are we operating, therefore? We are operating on an imperial order and council of the Queen who signed the document. The authority line. This is the past and it has to end.
Okay.
So
Just to go, we don't have much comments, but what we have. So where do we go from here regarding the Constitution? There were two referendums for changes to the Constitution, which was spearheaded by Dr. Francis Alexis. Also presented as where do we go from here? Again, Dr. Alexis sets it out in his document. I guess that's about the oath of allegiance. So what's the best way forward for Grenada as of now? Let me just raise this issue because Dave, I know with both of you, given your great interest and knowledge in this with regard to the contents of the Constitution, we have a problem in terms of the referendum referred to. In that the Constitution says that to make fundamental change, and if we were to accept your viewpoint, Dave, to make changes which are not even fundamental, for example, changing the oath of allegiance, you require not only a referendum, but you require the approval of 2/3 of those voted in the referendum. What's your take on this? Because it's striking. Britain withdrew from the European Union a few years ago, I think 2016 or thereabouts. There was a referendum. You remember the vote? You remember how it was split? How it was split?
51%.
51% voted in favor, and then Britain had to withdraw.
Yeah.
Right. We face a situation where, that's my take, we have a constitution that we had little, we had no substantial involvement in constructing. Yeah? Which at the same time says to us, apparently so, on the face of it, that if you want to change this, I'm giving you this, but if you want to change it, you must have the approval of 2/3 of those voted in a referendum. And in terms of going forward, in terms of the future, how do we get past this?
Okay, so let me just address one comment that you made. we had no or little substantial contribution. All right, from as early as 1951, Eric Gary articulated his interest in the working class of the people. If you look at the Grenada Constitution, you'll see protections for trade unions. The right to assemble is entrenched. The right to associate, it's entrenched. And what we're seeing being played out in front of us now with regards to the issues of pension, etc., trade unions is protected. And the right for the trade union to protect the people's interests. All right? When Gary made it, some of them have it, some don't. I'm talking about in the context of Grenada. The right to the trade unions and the protections to assemble, most of them have it. I'm not certain about Barbados and Jamaica. Barbados, Jamaica, and Trinidad. I'm not sure that they have it.
They don't mention the word trade union, but they have
No. Our constitution. But freedom of association and having a trade union representation is critical in the context of Grenada, because not only is the right to trade union representation in the public service, because remember, our constitution sets up the organs of government, and the public service is an organ of government, and the public workers union, what used to be the civil service union, is an entrenched provision in our constitution. So too
under which section is that entrenched provision?
Sections.
The public workers union.
Not the Grenada Civil Service Association and the Grenada Union of Teachers. Right. Okay. Sections 83, subsections 15. And that section has to do with the public service and the Public Service Commission. And we also know that unions are members of the Public Service Commission. So, and it's what I try to say. You cannot, the Constitution is set up like a domino, and you interfere with anything and you get the domino effect. So interfering, no. Any changes, if we take out unionism.
No, I hate to, but I just want to take you back to that. Right? Okay. The contention that the public workers union, the civil service union, the teachers union are protected under the Constitution. There is freedom of association, the right to, and in Grenada, and we credit Gary with that. Yeah?
Okay, yeah.
Specified in particular the right to form trade unions. Yeah? Mm-hmm. But it is recognized in all the islands in the Caribbean, even those that don't have the words in particular, that freedom of association gives you the right to associate in trade unions. Yeah? So
right. No,
my point was that there is nothing, we did not have any substantial involvement. And the proof of that is from Jamaica in the north to Guyana in the south. Essentially, the constitutions were the same. In fact, in one famous judgment from the Privy Council, they referred to it as a family of constitutions. Essentially, more than that, you made the point. The 1967 constitution that we had no involvement in was
exactly.
Constitution is
it was similar. Right. And I was making the point, however, that yet it was remarkably similar. It was different. So that is my point. And it was different in the context of when you start under fundamental rights and freedoms, right away, Grenada, Belize, Guyana, the right to work is entrenched. There's no other right to work anywhere else. Right?
That right, first of all, the right in Grenada and the right in Belize are different.
It's definitely different.
The right in Grenada, the right in, I don't want us to get into these.
It can't be derogated.
I need to take your point.
But
It's what?
the rights in Grenada cannot be derogated. Parliament
The
cannot
right in
limit your
Grenada
right to
is
work.
the right in Grenada is not enforceable
What do you
under
mean it's
Section
not
60 of the
enforceable?
Constitution.
How you
It
mean
is
it's not
not
enforceable?
enforceable.
Huh? Under section,
How I
under
mean that?
section, of course it's enforceable. You can't take it under section 16 of the Constitution, but under sections 10, under sections 10, 104 or 102, you have access to the
Dave,
court for anything that requires constitutional interpretation.
The right to work in our Grenada Constitution is not enforceable under the Constitution. It is
Well, you can say
enforceable under
that.
the Belize Constitution. But I
No,
don't want
it's
us to
up-
get bogged up with that. I'm trying to take you to I'm trying to take you to the issue of the 2/3 majority. That's what I wanted to
Okay,
take you to.
so, and I need to address something that Mr. Collins said. And Mr. Collins is saying now that the Governor General is a rubber stamp and she takes instructions from the Constitution.
He or she.
He or she takes instructions from the Prime Minister. And whilst you are reflecting what popular sentiment is, whilst you may be reflecting what the convention has been, what the customs, no constitution, no convention is law. What the law says is that every law that is what section 45 of the Constitution says, and it's clear, there's no ambiguity.
Yeah, you read it already. I had no problem with it. It says that. You read it about 4 times, so don't read it again.
Right. So what we have, and the problem that we have now, I don't know that the Constitution is the problem, because the Constitution requires men that are 1, honorable, men that are 2, dignified, right? So when you take an oath, you understand that the oath that you're taking is in fact a contract. And if you breach the oath, you are in fact breaching a contract. Because interestingly, you, no Mr. Rullow, no Mr. Layne, no myself, we don't swear to the Constitution of Grenada, you know. We are the Constitution. We can swear to ourselves.
I never said the Constitution is a problem, and I have no problem with the Constitution. I just tell you what is taking place. The Constitution is good, it's excellent.
So who allows it?
No.
So who allows it? When we pass a law and the Governor General does not ensure the constitutionality of a law, and we just passed the arms law. What's the thing again? That you if you're found with arms and ammunition, that there's no bail. Bail is the jurisdiction of the court. Bail is not the jurisdiction of a parliament. So how can you pass a law that says before you prove a man guilty, you can incarcerate him? That is not a civilized society we live in. That had to be something else.
Dave, let's not go off, because let's focus on the.
So we're saying again now that there was no contribution. That we had no contribution to the document.
I said no, right? Or no substantial.
Okay, so there was no substantial contribution to what has evolved.
The document that we got essentially is what the British had from 67, and is essentially what they have given from Jamaica in the north to Guyana in the south. Essentially, there are differences. I'm not saying there are no differences.
Right, because there are fundamental differences. How many?
Majority.
No, so let's address
majority. I want to hear you on.
So let's address what gives us a 2/3 majority. What authorizes us to make this decision about the 2/3 majority? Because our Constitution says that section 106 of the Constitution defines that our Constitution is supreme. That is not so in Trinidad. Okay. It's not so in Barbados, right? It's not so in many of the other regions. Our Constitution says that the Constitution is supreme. Who are the custodians?
They have
a supreme Constitution?
That is so in all the islands in the Caribbean.
They have a section 106 in their constitution.
It don't matter the
In every
section,
Trinidad
the word supreme.
Trinidad originally, Trinidad did not have one originally.
They have one now?
In the
They have one now?
1962 constitution, they did not have one. Let me finish, please.
Okay.
The matter arose and the court said the constitution is supreme. In the 76 constitution, the Republic Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, there is a supremacy law clause.
Of course. Just different words.
There is one in the 76 constitution.
And what does it say?
But I want to take it to the two. I'm trying to take it to the two-thirds majority.
Okay.
And your view on it in terms of if it's democratic, if it is all of those things.
I have no.
And the reason why I'm asking you that you are very strong, that the people should decide. So I'm trying to take you to whether you are in agreement that the constitution that was handed to us from a country where 51% were able to make a fundamental change to withdraw from the EU. Yeah, your view on whether an imposition of us that to make any fundamental change, such as, for example, changes which were attempted in Grenada before, for example, to remove the Privy Council and to have the Caribbean Court of Justice as the final court, that there must be 2/3 approval, not 50+1, but 2/3 approval to move in that way. And we're talking about the future, so I want to know your take on that.
So going forward, and you have repeated it, that my advocacy is that there must be people's involvement.
Yeah.
A key component of the people's involvement has to do with education. It means that people must be educated about their rights. They must be educated about their responsibilities. The responsibility to mind to the affairs of government, to make sure that government is accountable. That's a responsibility. Now, if there is no mechanism that informs the people, that educates them, that brings the constitution to them, right? Any decision that you ask them to make will be in the dark. They'll be making decisions about what they know and what they do not know. And I think that was reflected in the last two referenda that we had. People were asked to make decisions on issues that they knew nothing about. We did not even know that we were a member of the CCJ. So how are you asking me to choose whether it's the appellant jurisdiction or the original jurisdiction? And I don't even know that this entity exists, right? There were bills that were put in front of us. We did not know. The directive, a state policy, etc. We did not know. So our constitution and the 2/3 majority forces us. It forces us to take a stand where people have to be educated in order for the constitution to be changed. Because we all understand that the people will not make a change if they don't know. And we have had two examples of that. The people don't know and they tell you, leave it just so. I don't know, I don't understand, leave it so. So what is the solution? We have to educate people. And that is what the 2/3 majority forces us to do.
Yeah, but 2/3 majority out of how many?
I want to say one more thing, Mr. Collins. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not 2/3 of mangoes, or it's not 2/3 of monkeys or Egyptians or whatever.
No,
whatever.
2/3 of
the Canadian people.
It could be 2/3 of 5,000.
Well, it's 2/3 of who voted, who feel that they're educated enough to vote. Yeah. I don't have no problem with that.
2/3.
I have no problem with that. Whatever decision they make, I have no problems. But there must not be no back door. No 2 men or 5 men must sit in a committee and come and tell me to change anything.
But you see what, Dave, that's how we got the constitution. With some men sitting in Marlborough.
But we know independent. So we're not going back there. We're not going back there. We're going to make the decision now. We're not going back there.
All right.
No,
I just want us to appreciate I just want us to, I agree that part, but I just want us to appreciate that is how we arrive where we are now.
And I appreciate that. But I'm
Okay,
saying that we're not going back there.
And I
making
agree
progress.
with that. I fully agree with that.
And that is why we resist forcefully any attempt by any group to take that decision away from the people of Grenada. That's what to make the decision. Why are we afraid of a decision that the people will make?
Where the Constitution can be changed, where the Constitution says presently that there are things, and certainly this oath of allegiance, you don't need a referendum for that.
We can debate that again, because
but
debating that without the specifics is difficult. We just expressing opinions. You have to back up what you're saying with specifics, and so far that has not been done.
Well, we went past that stage. That was a discussion last year. Give me 1 minute. Okay, just so before we end, I just want to thank both Brother Rullow and Brother Dave for being here. Also to thank the sponsors once again, Jail Professional Solutions, GEM-FM, and Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union.
Attention all workers, your health and safety at work are critical. At Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, we are dedicated to ensuring you have a safe and secure work environment. If you encounter unsafe conditions or are involved in an accident, take immediate actions. Report it to the company, your shop steward, and make sure it reaches your union. Your health and safety is a priority, and a strong union means a strong voice for your rights. Don't wait. Address concerns right away and protect your well-being. For a safer workplace and a better quality of life, stand with the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. Together, we can create a safer, healthier work environment for everyone.
Okay, and next week program we will be on what is referred to as Trump's immigration policies. And we have a distinguished attorney out of the United States will be our guest, Brad Figaro, Esquire. He will be our guest next week. And I think this program should be very interesting. The impact of Trump's executive orders on all immigrants, with a special focus on Caribbean immigrants. So next week, Sunday, we will have that program. We will advertise it, promote it from tomorrow, because I think this should be a topic of great interest for Caribbean people in general, Grenadians, Vincentians, and all people in the OECS and the Caribbean. So, as we are about to finish, I don't know, Brother Simeon, you want to give any final and closing remarks?
Oh, certainly. More or less, a lot of what everybody said was correct. Okay, as Brother Rullow started out, the Constitution was developed during colonial times, and it could change. He indicated it's time for it to change, and we need a new Constitution. And that the Constitution that was there when Grenada was an associated state is similar to that was there when it became independent. Chair, you pointed out there was a conference in 1973 in which both government and the opposition was represented. But Nedd did well. He said that the Constitution is rooted in our history from 1951 to independence in 1974, and two referendums, or one in 2016 or 2018. The one in 2016 had 6 bills. I remember there was some problem with one of the bills there, which most people use that to vote against the actual change in the Constitution. Some people call it the Batman bill, and people were saying we made a vote in, and they went and immediately. A lot of people turned out. but they voted against what they call the Batman Bill, and he ended up voting against everything. We spent some time on the oath of office, where you swear your allegiance to Grenada and to the people of Grenada. And the other oath is the oath of allegiance, where we swear our allegiance to his or her Majesty the King. Now, the original that puts the monarch as the head of state. The monarch is seen as a symbol of neutrality, according to Brother Nedd. There's no benefits to the monarch. And then the chair pointed out that Dr. Alexis to change the oath of allegiance, pointed out that you can change the oath of allegiance by a 2/3 majority. So the oath of allegiance will be to the people. And it can also be changed with Parliament, who can amend certain sections. Okay? So we went on there, and Brother Rullow again made it quite clear that no country in the world can sustain themselves. We are not talking about economic independence, we are talking about political independence. In 2020, the government of Grenada, led by Dr. Kit Mitchell, he said, prepared a referendum to review the constitution. There was a lot of shortcomings with the referendum. But then make it quite clear that women receive less pay during colonial times. And this is one of the issues of independence that brought to the attention and was one of the shortcomings. Okay? But my position, as I said, is quite clear. The monarch, represented by the Governor General, is a rubber stamp to stamp whatever the Prime Minister says. And a lot of legal semantics took place, but Nedd really quote all kind of thing in the Constitution, this section. I don't familiar with the section, I just look about what I hear people say. I don't even read it. Okay. These are had was very good referendums that we had. At least everybody talking, and I get a clear idea of what is taking place. Okay, so I am clear, and so thank you.
Okay, Brother Nedd? Dave?
Yes, Brother Layne. So I want to thank you again for allowing me this opportunity this evening. And as usual, every opportunity that we get to discuss the Grenada Constitution, to bring the contents of the Grenada Constitution to the people of Grenada, to make them aware of their rights and their responsibilities, we try to take advantage of it. It worries me when I hear persons refer to making decisions with regards to their constitutional rights and they're not acquainted with the document, because there is an inherent risk that in our efforts to throw out the colonial monarchy bathwater, that the Constitution might be the victim. So we want to get rid of colonialism, and we prepare to just take a document that when put against any other document in the region stands alone, and it affords the peoples more rights. I challenge anyone to bring me to a constitution that has more rights for the people, for the Grenadian people in this context. Anyway, I leave the challenge open. The Grenada Constitution, and Eric Gaze, who said it, he could not understand the concerns of the Grenadian people at the time, because the Constitution had more rights. There were more protections for the people. So I am not listening to what was said. I am reading the document. I have read the document over and over. And when you listen to what is said and you look at the document, it's chalk and cheese, and education. The The people must be a part. We are in a democracy. We're in a democratic country. We have part in order for a democracy to be successful. The people must participate in the democracy. We have representatives. We don't have leaders. But there is a concept going around that we have a leader. And that went out the window with the Constitution. With the associated statehood. We were no longer led. We elected representatives, and we directly elected those representatives, meaning that our views must be reflected in the parliament. We're not led. And those are the issues that we have to deal with. The monarchy ain't leading us. There's no benefit for the monarchy. Those who say they are now leading, that is what we have to address, because we are not led. We are a free people, but we are allowing the bonds of slavery to still linger. When those shackles were broken a long time ago, we're free.
Okay, thank you, Rullow.
Well, thank you very much, my brother, for inviting me over. I think it was a wonderful discussion, nice little opportunity to talk. A couple of things that were said here, I'd just like to rebut a bit. Brother David saying that shackles haven't been broken. As long as we are under the rule, the reign of our king, shackles haven't been broken, they're still there. And that's what we had to do, shake off once and for all. One of the things that we didn't touch on, I hope we did, I wish we do another opportunity, the question of reparation. We hear that man in about. What do you think about reparation? When you claim reparation, in whatever circumstance historically, the first thing you look at is cessation. Cessation means that whatever used to happen has to be stopped totally, and with guarantees that it will never reoccur. We still under the monarchy of the United Kingdom. We swear an allegiance to them. Means cessation is not active, it isn't there, it is non-existent. How then can we claim reparations over them? Little things to consider. Continue to ask the question to those in power. Show us the Constitution Act. Give us the validity, the document. Show us the document. It gives validity, legal authority, political legitimacy to the Constitution, that the rules that makes laws in this country that we are obligated to obey. And the Constitution itself is not a law. Nobody's answering that. And brothers and sisters, Grenadians, mobilize yourself, because you have the right and are capable of writing your own constitution. No more lawyers in this country nor in the United Kingdom shall write constitution for us. We can do it ourselves. We are capable. So prepare yourselves, brothers and sisters. Done with colonialism. Once and for all. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters, for all this work.
Okay, thank you to Brother Simeon, Brother Dave, Brother Rullow. Thank you for all those who viewed this program. Dave fundamentally agreed with you. The Constitution belongs to the people. Fundamental change should involve the people. There are minor changes I think the Constitution itself provided for, without having to have a referendum every Monday morning. There are minor changes that can be carried out by the Parliament, by special majority. But for fundamental change, I totally endorse the point that the people should be involved. What I think is undemocratic, though, is for a veto power essentially to be handed to a minority. And that's what, in fact, the requirement of a 2/3 majority does. It says that a one-third has a veto, and in my view, there is something that is inherently wrong with that, in my view, in particular, when that veto is imposed upon us by those who from whom we got the Constitution. And I maintain the point that Grenada, nor our political representatives, had any substantial involvement in it. Mind you, I am not criticizing or condemning the Constitution in any wholesale manner. I think the basic structure of the Constitution is fine. The basic structure in terms of separation of powers, in terms of a Bill of Rights. I think those basic things are fine, but there are other issues, in my view, which have to be addressed, and it is unfair and undemocratic to demand that I give you this constitution, but to change it in any fundamental way, you must have approval of 2/3 of the people. In other words, a minority of the people have as a veto. The theme for the independence this year is the next 50 years. And this program was really timed. And in a sense, it is in that context that this program has taken place. Because I would say with the constitution that we have and the demands for fundamental change, unless we can find a way around that, maybe none of us will be here in 50 years' time, but I think that debate will still be taking place. Once again, I want to thank everyone for all the viewers, all those following the program on YouTube, all those following the program on Facebook. Once again, I want to thank the guests, thank Brother Rullow, thank Brother Dave, Brother Simeon. Thank you all, and good night.
Good night. Bye-bye, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, bye.